Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast. I am Midge Noble, your host, and today we're going to talk about being belovedly blue. I don't know how sometimes these things come to me, but I believe that it's sacred downloads sometimes because it doesn't really always come from me. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was as we're coming to the Christmas season, I want to talk about people that may not really be embracing the entire season as we would like to embrace it. You guys know the drill. All the holiday movies and how they always turn out exactly right. And it's pretty predictable, but for some of us, we're still kind of addicted to seeing how it all turns out. And it's a good feel story, and we feel really happy that it all works out. But it doesn't always work out for everybody. When I think about being belovedly blue, I think about being held in God's sacred, energetic hands and still allowing ourselves to be honest about whether or not we have a Christmas spirit. People who have lost family, friends, and fur babies, during this time of year, it's really hard to pick yourself up and really embrace the season that you may have always embraced the season. I know that for my beloved and I, it is really harder this year than it was last year going through a Christmas season without my mom-in-law and my wife's mom, because the first year it was sort of like a fog and it was just survival. We had so much to do and we'd been through so much, and it was just like, oh, we're just going to get through it. And we did. We got a tree, we decorated the tree, we did all the things. We definitely cried through some of that because we were pulling out ornaments and we didn't have the traditional Christmas Eve dinner at her house. We didn't have the morning champagne breakfast at her house the next day, and everything was gone. Those things were gone. And so we were quite sad, and yet we still were in that survival mode of rising above and just going through the motions. This year, in our belovedly blue Christmas, we have cut back on a lot of things because we just don't have the energy to pretend this year. We don't have the wherewithal to get out everything and to do everything at a high level volume. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to pause. It doesn't mean that I don't miss the tree. We do have our corgi tree. If you guys know us, you know that we have a corgi tree, which means that there's a ceramic tree that has corgis all the way around it, playing and doing all sorts of things. And it's a gorgeous little piece by Bradford Exchange, by the way, that we've had forever, absolutely forever. And that was our tree that we put up when Roddy was missing. And if you know that story, if you don't, you know, I'll tell it to you one day. I probably have already told it to you. And we just could not get into Christmas that year because he was gone. And normally we started decorating after Thanksgiving, and we were out on the road looking for him. And so he did come back on December 3rd, but by that time we were just all in crisis survival mode of getting him well again because he was in such bad shape when he got home. And for those of you who don't know the story, Roddy was our corgi that was attacked by a neighbor's dog and ran off and was gone for 3 weeks. And so that year, when we put up the corgi Christmas tree after he got home, that was a celebration. We didn't need anything else but that because we already had our ultimate gift. He was home, he was alive, he was sick, but he was alive, and we were able to get him into a lot of really good vet care. and he was able to live with us for another 3 years until his body gave out. But he was definitely our Christmas miracle that year. And so, you know, we've had times where we didn't put up a tree, and yet this year it's just all about the lack of energy. I do miss it, but I just don't have the energy to do it by myself, and my wife is definitely not in the mood to do it. So again, the corgi Christmas tree is holding space. I did um, get some lights out front because they bring me joy. And what I told somebody earlier today is that, you know, a little bit of joy is better than no joy at all. And even though I don't have the energy to go full blown Christmas mode, I really love to see those lights out there when we're walking in the morning, and I love having some sort of cheer. I don't like the idea of complete darkness because I don't believe that I am in complete darkness. I know that the edge of joy is not as bright as it has been, and yet I do believe that joy will return. It's going to be different. It's always going to be different because so many people have passed and things are just different. But when we talk about being belovedly blue, belovedly means that there is that ray of hope of being held in God's sacred essence. And that gets us through. It can get us through the really tough spots. You know, I was thinking this morning about the Christmas story and how we always talk about the nativity and how blessed it was. And this actually came up last night at a Bible study that we're doing a book called Christmas is Not Your Birthday by Mike Slaughter. And we came up with this thought about, oh, you know, if you really look at it from a very practical standpoint of the way it really was, it was not this blessed moment where everything was clean and perfect and that Jesus really didn't probably cry at least once and probably more, and how scary that must have been. We had a physician, an obstetrician in the meeting last night, and she was like, you know, you just think about the miracle of how there was not infection and that the baby didn't have hypothermia, and you know that it really wasn't the sacred looking moment that the songs portray or that movies have portrayed. We're talking about a teenager who becomes pregnant, and the man that she's betrothed to, who happens to be, by the way, her distant cousin, and they were betrothed, and it was in that Jewish culture legal. I mean, distant cousins are even allowed to marry today. So they were betrothed. But even though they were husband and wife in name, in the Jewish culture, they were not going to be actually official until they did what's called a home taking ceremony. And then it would have made their relationship official when she would have gone into the home that Joseph had prepared for her. But then things happened, you know, in that murky time where she is told by an angel that you're going to conceive a baby, and Joseph didn't know in the beginning that that's what happened, and here he is wrestling with the person that's supposed to be his wife and is not supposed to be pregnant before the home taking ceremony is now pregnant. That was like such an embarrassment. That was such a bad situation. Now later he did get an angel to tell him that, you know, she did not become unfaithful. It was not, you know, it's really on the up and up. But how do you explain that to your parents? How do you explain that to your other family members? How do you explain that to your community? Clearly, they were in this by themselves because they had to leave their town and go without family. So, in this supposed first Christmas, we have a pregnant teenager on a donkey being led by her betrothed husband to be away from all family and all friends. They go by themselves as much as I have been able to figure out by looking at the scriptures. They were alone, just the two of them, on the road on a donkey. When they get to where they're going, they weren't welcomed by other family members that they went to visit. There were no rooms at the inn. And now we put this pregnant teenager and this very worried, very concerned, still probably doubting just a wee bit man that, you know, they have to put this baby in this manger. Now, the manger was really a water trough. It probably was concrete, as we've been able to determine, and it couldn't have been that clean. I'm sure Joseph did the best he could, but it couldn't have been that clean. And it was in a manger. So there was probably poop or the essence of poop. Joseph might have cleaned all that out, and I would think that he would be the man to do that. But it still probably smelled of animals, and animals were probably still present. This was not what you would consider the best possible outcome for our Messiah. And yet, it's all perfect because they were grieving, I'm sure, the life they left the night that Jesus was born. So we have this blessed birth, this hope of this new Messiah being born in the most lowly, dirty situation, because we know that that's what Jesus does. He goes to the most humble, sad situations and he makes it better. That's the real Christmas story for me, is that it's not about the baubles and the lights and all of the beauty. It's about something getting better, a miracle happening to make things better. And time does that for those of us who may be grieving, but also the understanding that we are so not alone in how we may feel about this Christmas season. Not only may you be grieving family, friends, or fur babies who have passed, but we are also still grieving the hope of equality and equity and civil rights and Social Security and all the things we've been talking about for the last whole year. We're grieving what's going to happen and what's already started to happen, and how they're bringing in laws to redefine a relationship being a man and a woman. It's already started. So during this Christmas season, what I really want wrapped up under my Christmas tree is some declaration that says your marriage will always be upheld in the eyes of the law and in the eyes of God and in the eyes of the church, that we will always have our rights to marry, to have health care, to have our chosen family and our beloveds in our hospital rooms when it is our turn to be in a hospital. I want us to have our rights. That's my Christmas wish. But above that, even, my Christmas wish is that I will always remember how sacred that moment was when Jesus was born, because it wasn't perfect. It didn't have to be perfect, because Jesus always made sure that his ministry reached out to the unreachable, the untouchables, the people who were really suffering. He always believed in those who were humble, those who were meek, but doing the work of God. Having metta, loving kindness, doing compassion in action, being willing to open yourself up and say yes to God no matter what you're called to do, whether you're called to be a missionary, a preacher, a teacher, an accountant, whatever you're called to do, that you do it with the sacred energy of a loving presence, that your loving heart delivers whatever service you're called to do in a sacred way. So on this beloved Blue Christmas, for whatever reason you may not be feeling your absolute best, you are in community. You are in a beloved community where we all feel a little bit less bright maybe this year than we have in the past. We can hold each other together in that sacred space and support one another as we go through this next year. So one of the things that I want to commend to you is that on Christmas Day, if for whatever reason you're not able to get to a service, you don't want to go to a service, you don't want to have anything to do with church, I'm going to be giving a sacred homily online. I think I'm going to do it on Zoom, and I will make that link available to you if you want it. I might post it later so you can watch it later. But I think it'd be a little bit harder to do it just live on Facebook or any other platform. So I'll probably be going live on Zoom, and I will offer you that link if you email me. I don't want any interruptions onto the feed, so I will give you the link privately if you want it. So just email me at empoweredmidge@gmail.com, and I'll be going live at 11 o'clock on Christmas Day. I want to offer this sacred homily for you because I want you to have community. So I guess it's sort of like a beloved community sacred homily. And that way we can all be together. Those of us who don't have a church service to go to, those of us who don't want to go, who, however you define it, if you want to be with someone on Christmas and you have no one else to be with, feel free to email me at empoweredmidge@gmail.com, and I will send you a link to come into our beloved community sacred homily on Christmas Day. And I hope to see you there. I really do. I'm going to be doing it whether you're there or not. But if you want to join me, I would love to see your face and have you there. So let us all understand that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel disengaged. It's okay to feel tired. And it's also okay to remember that you are part of a beloved community that had a very humble, very dirty beginning. And we haven't always been perfect. But the hope is that everything will be made new and that everything will turn out right in the end. Thank you, everybody, for sharing this time with me. Please remember to support and share and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to the Gay with God podcast. And if you want to have more community, if you're feeling out of sorts and you'd like to have more community, please check out my Gay with God Facebook group. And in that group, we do a My Faith Journey Zoom meetup every month. And we get together and talk about where we're struggling, where we're having, good moments. And sometimes we have specific topics. Next Monday on December 16th, 2024, that's our My Faith Journey night. And so at 6:30, we'll be meeting. If you want to join that group, go to the Gay with God Facebook page, answer all the questions, and that's how I let you into the group. I'm very careful about our privacy. I'm very careful about keeping everything safe. So answer all of the questions. I'll invite you into the group, and then I always post the Zoom link for the My Faith Journey in that group and in that group only. So I hope to see you there. If you need some support over the Christmas holidays, please take advantage of a complimentary session that I can offer you. You can find that on the show page for today's notes at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. So if you need a little extra support, take a complimentary session. If after that you want more time, I will give you a link to be able to join my coaching practice for as many days as you wanted. It's not a contract as far as like how long you're going to do it. It's, you get one complimentary session, and then if it's a good fit, we'll continue to do that if you want to go forward. I specialize in faith journeys and also coming out issues. So especially during the holiday time, whether to go home or not, how to protect yourself, what can we do, and just giving you support if you're going and you know it's going to be really, really rough, having somebody to just like bounce things off of and give you support during the season is really helpful. So that's at empoweredmidge.podbean.com, or you can go directly to my website at gaywithgod.com and find out how to get support from me. I really, really hope that you will continue to embrace the understanding that you are not alone. If you want community, we can provide community for you. Also, as a side note, my memoir, Gay with God, Reclaiming My Faith, Honoring My Story, is available to purchase for people that you think would really love to have that book at Christmas time. So it is hopeful. It goes through a lot of my trauma, but it also is very hopeful that, that things do turn out. And sometimes it just takes a minute, but it does turn out. If you'd like to purchase that book, you can also go to my website, gaywithgod.com, and purchase that book, and I can sign it for you if you'd like, or you can buy it wherever you buy books. All right, my beloveds, if you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, or not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you, even when you didn't know it. You have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.